The Munsters, 1964 to 1966, cast then and now, 2024, half-actors sadly passed away. It's astonishing to reflect and realize that CBS's The Munsters only lasted for a brief 2 seasons. Debuting in September 1964, the Munster household bid farewell to viewers in 1966. Nonetheless, syndication revitalized the series, attracting a new legion of fans and solidifying its status as one of America's most iconic sitcoms. Regrettably, the majority of the sitcom's main cast members have passed away. Yet, both those who remain and those who have departed ensured to lead lives even more vibrant than the monochrome show we fondly recall. For further insights, let's delve into what transpired in the lives of the cast of The Munsters following the show's conclusion. Pat Priest as Marilyn Munster. Pat bore such a striking resemblance to the original Marilyn actress Beverly Owen that many viewers remained unaware of the switch. Marilyn, Herman and Lily's niece, was the sole family member with a conventional appearance, though the ongoing joke was her self-awareness of her plain or ugly status compared to her spooky relatives. Priest began her career as a singer and actress on regional television networks before catapulting to fame in 1964 with The Munsters, alongside a role in the popular series Perry Mason. She also starred in the 1967 film Easy Come, Easy Go with Elvis Presley before retiring from acting in 1976. In her retirement, she focused on renovating and selling homes in Idaho, where she has resided for more than 20 years. In 2001, Priest received a diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma but successfully completed treatment and has been in remission since. While Priest stepped back from acting in the 1980s, she remains involved in nostalgic conventions and Munsters revivals nationwide. Prior to her retirement, she restored and sold homes in Idaho, her residence for over 2 decades. Priest has been married twice and is a mother of 2 sons. In 2001, Priest faced a diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Completing treatments at St. Luke's Mountain State's Tumor Institute, she later achieved remission. Even at 87 years old, she continues to participate in conventions featuring Munsters memorabilia. Al Lewis as Grandpa. What occurs when Count Dracula decides to retire? He transforms into Grandpa Munster. Devoting much of his leisure time to experiments in the Munsters' basement laboratory, Grandpa's scientific endeavors frequently stir up trouble within the family. Even when his experiments don't cause chaos, he still manages to create problems by persistently attempting and failing to nibble on everyone's arm. Although Lewis remained active in acting until shortly before his passing, none of his roles quite matched the iconic status of his portrayal as Grandpa Munster. Notably, Lewis appeared to embrace the typecasting that followed the series. For instance, he was the sole original cast member to provide his voice for the ultimately unreleased 1973 animated pilot, The Mini Munsters. Lewis also seemed comfortable leveraging his stint on The Munsters in subsequent ventures, such as his bid as the Green Party nominee for the governorship of New York State, during which he unsuccessfully campaigned to have his name appear on the ballot as Grandpa Al Lewis. Lewis passed away in February 2006 from natural causes at the age of 82. Initially, there was some uncertainty regarding his age at the time of his death, partly due to Lewis's penchant for playful exaggeration. Known for weaving elaborate tales about his past, Lewis was not averse to bending the truth, claiming, among other things, that Charles Manson once babysat his children and that he had dabbled in every entertainment medium, including some that were entirely fictional. Yvonne DiCarlo as Lily Munster. While Herman may tower over everyone else, it's evident that the Munster family would be lost without the matriarch, Lily, portrayed by the late Yvonne DiCarlo. Smarter than her well-meaning but often clueless husband and deeply devoted to her entire family, Lily serves as the anchor that prevents the Munster household from descending into chaos. DiCarlo was a determined actress who made significant strides in Hollywood well before her role in The Munsters. She began with minor film roles as early as the 1940s, and her breakthrough came when she landed the role of Moses' wife, Sephora, in the 1956 biblical epic, The Ten Commandments. The following year, she starred opposite Clark Gable in Band of Angels. Even after The Munsters, she continued to grace both the big and small screens, accumulating nearly 100 film credits over her lifetime. In 1950, DiCarlo acquired an 11-room ranch property spanning 5.5 acres of rolling woodland on Coldwater Canyon Drive in Studio City, Los Angeles, above Beverly Hills. She affectionately referred to it as her dream home, and enlisted an architect to assist in designing an English-style dining room complete with paneling and stained glass windows. Additionally, she constructed stables for her horses and a sizable swimming pool. The property was sold in 1975. In 1981, she relocated to a ranch in the Santa Ynez Valley near Solvang, California. DiCarlo passed away in January 2007 from heart failure at the age of 84. Her son, Brian Morgan, informed Reuters that she had worked on 2 independent films prior to her passing, although as of 2021, they had yet to be released. Beverly Owen as Marilyn Munster. Beverly Owen portrayed Marilyn in the initial 13 episodes. Initially, she accepted the role, expecting the show to fail due to its absurd premise. However, upon its unexpected success, the strain of being separated from her fiancé in New York became too much, prompting her departure from the sitcom to marry John Stone, who later contributed to the production of Sesame Street. Ironically, despite Owen's departure, she never achieved the level of success attained by the Munsters. Her most notable non-Munsters role was in the 1964 film Bullet for a Bad Man, starring Audie Murphy. Eventually, she took a divergent path, pursuing studies in early American history. Owen left the Munsters after 13 episodes to wed future Sesame Street writer and producer John Stone in Newfane, Vermont, on June 27, 1964. Their marriage lasted for a decade until 1974. Owen had 2 daughters, Polly and Kate. Following her divorce in 1974, she continued her academic pursuits in early American history, obtaining a master's degree in 1989. Leading a private life, Owen remained largely out of the public eye. The world was shocked to learn of her passing from ovarian cancer in 2019. Butch Patrick, her co-star on The Munsters, shared a heartfelt tribute on Facebook on February 24, 2019, stating, "Beautiful Beverly Owen has left us. What a sweet soul. I had the biggest crush on her. R.I.P. Bev, and thanks for your 13 memorable Marilyn Munster episodes." Fred Gwynne as Herman Munster. One of the most familiar faces from The Munsters is the late Fred Gwynne, who portrays Herman Munster. Despite epitomizing a gentle giant, his resemblance to Frankenstein's monster is so striking that the mere sight of Herman often prompts not only people, but also animals or even inanimate objects to flee in terror. Previously recognized by audiences as the bumbling Officer Muldoon on Car 54 Where Are You?, Gwynne found himself stereotyped after The Munsters. Nonetheless, he continued to work in film and TV, alongside pursuing other interests. Particularly, Gwynne was an author and illustrator of children's books. His debut book, Best in Show, was released in 1958, and from then until his passing in 1993, he created and illustrated numerous pun-filled picture books like 1970's The King Who Reigned and 1976's A Chocolate Mousse for Dinner. His final children's book, Pondlarker, was published in 1990. Furthermore, while his portrayal of Herman Munster occurred relatively early in his career, his other 2 notable roles came towards the end. In 1989, he portrayed the grandfatherly neighbor Judd Crandall in the original adaptation of Stephen King's Pet Sematary. The year preceding his demise from pancreatic cancer, Gwynne made his last significant film appearance, and one of his most cherished, as the stern Judge Haller in the timeless legal comedy My Cousin Vinny, Paul Lynde as Dr. Edward Dudley. If you're a monster, your top choice for healthcare might just be the recurring character Dr. Dudley, portrayed by the late Paul Lynde in his initial 3 appearances. Similar to Herman Munster in clumsiness, Dr. Dudley also suffers from notably poor eyesight, perhaps explaining why he doesn't flee in terror when the Munsters visit for checkups. Paul Lynde was among the most familiar comedic faces on 1960s American sitcoms. Apart from the Munsters, Lynde frequently appeared in sitcoms such as I Dream of Jeannie, The Flying Nun, and F Troop. In one of his most cherished roles, he portrayed the uncle of the disguised witch Samantha, Elizabeth Montgomery, on Bewitched. Additionally, he was a crowd favorite on the celebrity game show The Hollywood Squares from its inception. Looney Tunes icon Mel Brooks once remarked that Lynde was such a natural comedian that he could elicit laughter from audiences simply by reading a phone book, tornado alert, or seed catalog. Numerous urban legends circulated regarding Lynde's demise in 1982 at the age of 55. Discovered in his bedroom by his friend Paul Barisi, rumors soon spread suggesting that his body was discovered unclothed, insinuating that he had been murdered by either a secret lover or a sex worker. However, subsequent investigations confirmed the coroner's conclusion that a heart attack was the cause of Lynde's death. Brian O'Byrne as Calvin. Brian O'Byrne portrayed Uriah, Calvin, and another colleague at the funeral parlor. Prior to his acting career, O'Byrne served in the U.S. Army before transitioning to become an elementary school educator. Subsequently, he relocated to New York City to pursue his passion for acting. O'Byrne found success in the industry after his performance in the Broadway play Duel of Angels, alongside actress Vivien Leigh, during the late 1950s. Under the tutelage of Stella Adler, O'Byrne honed his acting skills and even danced under the guidance of Martha Graham. He resided in the same New York apartment building as actors James Ferrantino and Marlon Brando, forging friendships with them early in their careers. O'Byrne also served as an acting instructor and mentor to numerous aspiring actors. His teaching approach often focused on repetition and scene analysis. Several film studios recommended younger actors to seek O'Byrne's guidance to enhance their performances. Throughout his career, O'Byrne provided coaching and guidance to many emerging film and television actors. Forrest Whitaker, Jimmy Smits, and Lou Diamond Phillips were among those who attended his acting classes in the early stages of their careers. Additionally, he coached actors such as Pam Dauber, Christopher McDonald, Bonnie Bedelia, Bill Allen, and Marge Ducey. In the 1990s, O'Byrne retired from acting to care for his ailing sister, Henrietta Bullea. He subsequently relocated to Pacifica, California, where he spent the final 16 years of his life. O'Byrne passed away on December 4, 2009 in Pacifica, California, at the age of 78. Harvey Korman as Dr. Leinbach. Before the prevalence of serialized TV series, it wasn't uncommon for certain actors to make appearances in sitcoms multiple times, portraying entirely different characters, and such was the case with the late Harvey Korman on The Munsters. Korman featured in 3 episodes of the sitcom, each time assuming a new role. In the Season 1 finale titled Family Portrait, he portrayed German psychiatrist Dr. Leinbach, and in Yes, Galen, There Is a Human, he returned as Dr. Leinbach, and in Season 2's Prehistoric Munster, he portrayed the distinguished scientist Professor Gerhard von Fagenspann. Similar to Munsters veterans Paul Lynde and Dom DeLuise, Korman was one of the most cherished comedic actors of the 70s, often associated with Mel Brooks. His portrayal of the corrupt Attorney General Hedley Lamar in the 1974 satirical film Blazing Saddles remains particularly memorable. On television, he gained immense popularity as what he humorously referred to as the luminous second banana, alongside the titular host of the long-running variety sketch comedy sensation, The Carol Burnett Show. In 2008, at the age of 81, Corman passed away due to complications arising from an abdominal aortic aneurysm. John Hoyt as Barney Walters. John Hoyt portrayed Barney Walters in the series. His Broadway debut occurred in 1931 with William Bolitho's play Overture. Among his other Broadway roles in the early 1930s were appearances in Miracle at Verdun, 1930, Lean Harvest, 1931, and Clear All Wires, 1932. Additionally, he participated in various regional theater productions before joining Orson Welles' Mercury Theater in 1937, remaining with the group until his relocation to Hollywood in 1945 following his military service. In 1958, Hoyt assumed the role of rancher Clete Barron in the episode Trouble in Paradise Valley of Frontier Doctor. Subsequently, he appeared in 2 episodes of Richard Diamond, Private Detective in 1958 and 1959, portraying Bernison in The George Dale Case and Harding Sr. in Murder at the Mansion. Later in 1959, on Laramie, Hoyt depicted mentally distressed military officer Colonel Brandon in The General Must Die. He also took on the roles of Bertrand Russell and Voltaire in episodes of Steve Allen's PBS series Meeting of Minds in the late 1970s. Furthermore, he appeared as Sire Domra in episode 21, Balter's Escape of Battlestar Galactica. Hoyt entered matrimony twice, initially with Marion Virginia Burns from 1935 to 1960, with whom he shared 1 child, and subsequently with Dorothy Oltman Haveman from 1961 to 1991 until his demise from lung cancer in Santa Cruz, California. John Abbott as Dr. Frankenstein IV. The descendant of Victor Frankenstein featured in A Visit from Johann. His journey into show business commenced in 1934 with his professional stage debut in a revival of Dryden's Aureng-Zebe alongside Sybil Thorndike. Later, he joined the Old Vic Company, portraying various Shakespearean characters, including Claudius, in a rendition of Hamlet at Elsinore Castle in Denmark, sharing the stage with Laurence Olivier, Vivian Leigh, and Alec Guinness. His Broadway debut came as Count Mancini in He Who Gets Slapped in 1946. Additionally, he graced the Broadway stage in Montserrat and the Waltz of the Toreadors. His cinematic debut transpired in Mademoiselle Docteur in 1937, followed by numerous film appearances over the next 3 decades. His filmography includes Mission to Moscow, Jane Eyre, 1001 Nights, Humoresque, and The Greatest Story Ever Told. During the early years of World War II, Abbott served at the British Embassy in Stockholm. Upon departure, he traversed to the United States and was offered a Hollywood role in 1941, leading him to reside there permanently. In American television from the 1950s to the 1970s, Abbott graced a plethora of series, including Kraft Television Theater, Studio 57, Gunsmoke, Matinee Theater, Bonanza, Thriller, Star Trek, Mannix, Iron Horse, and Bewitched. Abbott passed away from natural causes at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center on May 24, 1996, at the age of 90. Claire Carlton as Yolanda Cribbins. Mrs. Yolanda Yo-Yo Cribbins resides next door to the Munsters. In episode 2, titled My Fair Munster, Mrs. Cribbins develops romantic feelings for Herman after accidentally ingesting a potion crafted by Grandpa. By the episode's conclusion, she and Warren Bloom, the mailman who shares her wariness of the Munsters, unintentionally drink the same potion, leading to them falling in love with each other. Although she entered the film industry with a minor role in a 1933 film short, Seasoned Greetings, during the remainder of the decade, she primarily focused on her stage career. Her debut in a feature film occurred in Millionaire Playboy in 1940, alongside Joe Penner, Linda Hayes, and Russ Brown. Carlton tied the knot with Freddie Sherman, remaining married until his passing in 1969. She succumbed to cancer on December 11, 1979, at the age of 66, in Northridge, Los Angeles, California. She was laid to rest beside her husband at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, California. Carlton identified as a Democrat and endorsed Adlai Stevenson's candidacy during the 1952 presidential election. John Carradine as Mr. Gateman. Mr. Gateman oversees operations at the Gateman, Goodberry, and Graves Funeral Home, where Herman is employed. Carradine's initial film acknowledgement was Tollable David, 1930, although he asserted to have appeared in 70 films before receiving formal credit. Carradine purportedly auditioned as an anonymous candidate alongside renowned actors Conrad Veidt, William Courtenay, Paul Mooney, and Ian Keith for the lead role in Dracula, yet historical evidence does not corroborate this assertion. In 1982, he lent his voice to the character of the Great Owl in the animated film The Secret of NIMH. Additionally, he provided the voice for the wizard in the English version of Aladdin and the Magic Lamp. One of Carradine's later roles was in Peggy Sue Got Married in 1986. Jack O, released posthumously, marked Carradine's final credited film appearance. Recognized for his deep, melodious voice, he earned the moniker The Voice and was affectionately dubbed the Bard of the Boulevard due to his unique habit of wandering Hollywood streets while delivering Shakespearean soliloquies, a practice he consistently denied. In the latter part of the 1980s, Carradine, who had retired partially, grappled with severe and debilitating rheumatoid arthritis. He passed away from heart and kidney failure at Fate Benefratelli Hospital, Ghent in Milan, Italy, on November 27, 1988, at 82 years old. Mere hours prior to his demise, he had ascended the 328 steep steps of Milan's Gothic cathedral, the Duomo. Willis Boucher as Mr. Bradley. Willis Boucher portrayed Mr. Bradley in the show. Boucher was part of Jack Webb's Dragnet ensemble, credited variously as Willis Boucher, William Boucher, Willis Boucher, or Bill Boucher. He played a livestock trader in the featured 1958 episode Cash Robertson of NBC's juvenile Western series Buckskin. From 1960 to 1961, he appeared twice on the ABC sitcom Harrigan and Son, and on 4 occasions he took on the role of Springer in the CBS sitcom Pete and Gladys. He made guest appearances on CBS's Dennis the Menace and portrayed a judge in 23 installments of the same network's Perry Mason, being labeled as one of the more frequent judges on the bench in that series. In The Alfred Hitchcock Hour, S1E4, I Saw the Whole Thing, which aired on October 10, 1962, he portrayed Judge Nielsen. Additionally, on CBS's The Twilight Zone, Willis Boucher featured as Dr. Samuel Thorne in the episode The Masks, which premiered on March 20, 1964. Also in 1964, he had a role in Petticoat Junction, playing Dr. John Roan in the episode Kate Flat on Her Back. On ABC's Colt 45 TV series, Boucher took on the character of Lew Wallace, the governor of New Mexico Territory, in the episode Amnesty. Wallace extended a pardon to the outlaw Billy the Kid, portrayed on Colt 45 by Robert Conrad. Throughout his career, Boucher collaborated on 12 distinct projects with director John Ford and was among the more frequently utilized members of Ford's ensemble. In The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, he delivered the closing line, "Nothing's too good for the man who shot Liberty Valance." Richard Hale as Uncle Gilbert. Uncle Gilbert is akin to the creature from the Black Lagoon and once sent the Munsters $180,000 in gold doubloons. In the 2022 movie, Uncle Gilbert is Lily Grusella's relative, who she and Herman visited during the break that occurred before their wedding. Hale's first appearance at Aeolian Hall in 1921 marked the beginning of a prosperous opera career as a baritone. He toured both Europe and the United States. The New York Times Film Review of the Unknown from 1927 acknowledges Richard Hale baritone for his rendition of The Pirate's Frolic. Throughout the 1930s, Hale graced the stage of the Berkshire Playhouse in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. He also served as the narrator for Sergei Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf at Tanglewood, under the baton of Serge Koussevitzky. Additionally, Hale narrated Arthur Fiedler's 1953 RCA recording of the same composition with the Boston Pops. He gained recognition for his role as Father Manuel Ferreira in The Miracle of Our Lady of Fatima. On 4 occasions, he appeared as a guest star on Perry Mason, portraying murder victim George Lutz in the show's 3rd episode, The Case of the Nervous Accomplice, in 1957, and as general store owner Robert Tepper in the 1960 episode, The Case of the Violent Village. His passing at the age of 88 resulted from issues related to cardiovascular disease. Henry Beckman as Leadfoot Baylor. Henry Beckman portrayed Leadfoot Baylor in the series. Beckman appeared in more than 100 productions across the United States and Canada, including recurring roles such as Commander Paul Richards in the 1954 Flash Gordon space opera television series, Bob Mulligan in the ABC sitcom I'm Dickens, He's Fenster, George Anderson in the television adaptation of Peyton Place, Captain Clancy in the Western comedy drama Here Come the Brides, Harry Mark on Bronx, scheming United States Army Colonel Douglas Harrigan in McHale's Navy, Colonel Platt in the 1965 film McHale's Navy joins the Air Force, and as a sheriff in an episode of Rango. During the 1980s, he appeared in Cain and Abel, portrayed the security guard Alf on the Don Adams sitcom Check It Out, and was also a non-celebrity contestant on the TV game show Scrabble. He continued acting into his late 70s, appearing on shows like The Comish and MacGyver, and he held a recurring role in The X-Files for several seasons. Beckman earned 2 Canadian Film Awards for Best Supporting Actor in 1975 for Why Rock the Boat, and in 1978 for Blood and Guts. Alongside his first spouse, actress Cheryl Maxwell, Beckman established the Duke's Oak Theater in Cooperstown, New York, and served as the theater company's producer. He served with the Canadian Army during World War II, including the D-Day landings at Juno Beach, Normandy, on June 6, 1944. He is the father of astrophysicist and software engineer Brian Beckman. Beckman passed away in Barcelona, Spain, on June 17, 2008, with his second spouse Hillary by his side. Butch Patrick as Eddie Munster. With that iconic widow's peak, pointed ears, and fangs, the young Butch Patrick portrays Eddie on The Munsters, a hybrid of werewolf and vampire who is the son of Herman and Lily Munster and the proud owner of Woof Woof, the Wolfman doll often cradled in his arms. In 2004, Patrick disclosed to the Seattle Times that, at the age of 10, he emerged victorious among 500 other children to secure the role of Eddie Munster. While Eddie Munster stands as Patrick's most prominent contribution to pop culture, he seldom expresses anything but appreciation for the role during interviews. He relayed to the Seattle Times that the only challenging period he faced regarding his association with the Munsters was immediately after the show's cancellation. Patrick recounted that his Eddie Munster fame inadvertently led to difficulties. "Wherever I went, 300 or 400 kids would follow," Patrick reminisced, stating that the resulting disruptions led to his expulsion from junior high school. Patrick left a lasting mark on children's television with his appearance in the Saturday morning show Lidsville from 1971 to 1973, but shortly thereafter, he took a lengthy hiatus from acting. For the most part, he has assumed smaller, self-referential roles in the 21st century, such as portraying himself in the 2003 comedy Dickie Roberts, Former Child Star. Although he was a child during his initial collaboration with them, Patrick disclosed to ComingSoon.net in 2017 that he managed to reconnect with and develop friendships with his former co-stars Al Lewis and Yvonne DiCarlo before their passing. There you have it. It's difficult to imagine that this fantastic, imagination-rich series was only on the air for 2 seasons, comprising a grand total of 70 episodes. Who stood out as your preferred character in the series? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Appreciate you tuning in, and farewell.